There we go. All right. Hello, everyone. And thank you guys so much for joining us today. I am Sarah, sales manager at BDB Solutions, and I'm very excited to be here today with Ricardo Sosa, a former or current client of BDB, but a successful client so far. And I'm excited to talk to him a little bit more about his process, the steps of his process, advice he has for anybody. I love doing these testimonial chats from all the Tuesday testimonials that we've been doing. So if you have any question for Ricardo about his process, or anything that happened during his process or how he dealt with the process, put it down below, and we'll just go ahead and get started. So Ricardo, just kind of tell us a little bit more about yourself, a little bit about your process, and we can go through the steps of the process and kind of your timeline, but just a little bit about yourself and how you really came to even know about EB3 or BDB.
Okay, well, my name is Ricardo Sosa. I'm 48 years old and I'm from Ecuador, that is in South America. My process took something around almost 4 years, and I started in May of 2020. Then I sent all my papers. But September of 2020, I think, I received my labor certificate from my sponsor, that is Ajinomoto. And then I continued to send all the papers that I was asked and everything that BDB needed me to send.
So that was your labor certification. Again, you filed your labor certification around September of 2020.
Yeah.
And then your labor certification was denied first time around, right?
Yeah. They told me that it was for all the people that applied at that time to Ajinomoto. I don't know why it was, but then they did it again. So
it was audited in the next year around about less than a year, about 11 months later. And then it came back with a denial. So in August 08, 2021, August was denied and then appealed and then reapproved the following month in September of 2021, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm just making sure because this is your process, obviously, and I just want to make sure I'm getting it right. So, perfect. And then after that, everyone knows it's kind of when you pass on to the USCIS stage of the process. You'll onboard with your attorneys. And then the next step would be your I-140. I believe, you can talk about it.
Well, the I-140, I did it for me, my wife, and my kid. And actually, we didn't have much trouble with it. The people at that time helped us with everything, and it went well.
Perfect. Yeah, it took obviously less than a month because at that time, everyone had premium processing included. So it took less than, it was filed on the 7th of March and then approved on the 21st of March. So from there, tell us about the next steps of your process because you did counselor processing again from Ecuador. So what did the next steps kind of look like for you?
Well, the next steps, I think it was around July of 2022. The embassy sent me an email that all my papers were there and they were all approved. I didn't have any problem with that.
Yeah, so it was sent to NVC, National Visa Center, and then you didn't have your visa appointment until about 2 years after that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how was that? Did they tell you any reason or was just that the embassy or priority day? What was that time like for you emotionally and mentally? And two, did they give you any reason for, because again, your I-140 was approved in March 2022. That time, priority dates were current. And so what did it look like for the next, 2 years, just kind of waiting for that embassy interview?
Well, yeah, it was because about the pandemic. After that, they have this retrogression for all the appointments at the consulate. So BDB sent me all the information about it, and also my attorney, that it was going to be like not as fast as they thought, and we're gonna have to wait.
Yeah. I mean, and that really honestly happened for a lot of people. Obviously, COVID was something that no one was ever expecting,
Yeah,
especially for an immigration process to really affect it. But yeah, so you had your interview about 2 years later last year in
yeah,
May in
yeah.
Ecuador. How did that go? We get a lot of people, asking us questions about, the prep for it, the interview itself. I know a lot of people have experience with like a non-immigrant visa interview versus an immigrant, and it can
Mm.
be very, very different. So what was your experience at before and after the, or before and during the interview?
All right. Well, before I had this preparation with this company that works with BDB.
Argo, yeah.
Yeah, Argo. They prepared me for the interview. Actually, when I was talking to them, they told me, well, it's better for you to say this or not, and some things. But actually, it was not that hard. And then when I got my interview, actually went really well, more than I thought. The first day that I got in the consulate, I I only have to deliver them the papers that I was asked by email. Uh, some papers that I needed to upgrade, and nothing else that day. The next day, I had the interview, but it went really well. They only asked me for my what is that? Is my uh, Ajinomoto offer job.
Offer letter, yep.
Yeah. And then they asked questions about me, my wife, and my kid. And that's it.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't have like a lot of questions, something like that. It took like less than 10 minutes, the interview. And then we got
Yeah.
like approval.
It's crazy. I mean, some people will
Yeah.
have longer interviews. I've seen longer
Mm,
interviews, but a lot
yeah.
of people that I speak to have the same exact experience as you, but also people who are nervous to start this process, especially being outside of the US and
Yeah.
doing like a consulate or embassy interview. They get really scared about it. Because they hear, horror stories, or they have their own personal experience from like a tourist visa interview or a student visa interview. And it's
Yeah.
very different because those interviews, they are basically trying to figure out that you're going to come to the US and stay forever, right? They want
Yeah.
to make sure that you're not going to, overstay your non-immigrant visa. But with this process, this is a green card process. They know
Yeah.
that is your full intent, and they're really just looking at, hey, was this person eligible for a green card? Were they not a criminal? Were they not previously deported? All the things that we check in the questionnaire. And then that you have a sponsor, an eligible sponsor as well. So it can be just as short as Ricardo's interview being 10 minutes, even having brought your entire family and getting
Yeah.
asked questions about your own family, it could still be that short. What kind of questions did they ask you? Do you
Well, then,
remember?
yeah, they asked me about my job, where I was going to work. They asked me that in the last journeys that we went to the US, we did it as a family,
Mm-hmm.
all three together. And they only make us an announcement about all the information that they have is true. Then nothing else. They only took out fingerprints and nothing else.
So asked you about your sponsor and kind of,
Yeah,
your history in the US, which is pretty
yeah.
typical. Yeah. So one of the questions says, how long did it take you to complete your whole process? From my calculations, from like the day you filed your labor certification, September of 2020, until your interview approval or your interview date, which was May of 2024. That would have been 3 years, 8 months, 7 days. Exactly. Around there. And obviously there's stuff that, onboarding before actually getting to the US, getting your green card, because you're already in the US right now, correct?
Yeah. I'm
And
here.
okay.
I'm here since August of
August last year.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. And so you've already started working for your sponsor. Perfect. So I think we answered that one question. So yeah, just like going back all the way to the beginning. I always ask people this because we don't have BDV, doesn't have, a billion offices or a million all across the US or across the world. We have one office in South Carolina that anyone's welcome to visit, but we're mainly online. So how did you find out about, one, the EB3 process in general, but how did you learn about BDV and decide, hey, I'm going to do my process with BDV?
Well, I decided to go with BDB Solutions actually because my sister Carolina Souza, she did the same process before me, and she told me about it, how it works, and then when I see that it was good for her, I decided to apply it too.
Yeah, that's what most people do. They usually send one person out and they say, hey, you do it. I don't know if that is real. I don't know if that works. I don't know if that exists. You go out and do it. And once you get your green card, I'll start my process, which back in the day, it was okay to do because, there was a lot of more scams. There wasn't a lot of success cases and history and data between the companies that do EB3. And also it was faster. So if someone said, hey, I'm going to start the process, within a year or two, you would already know if they got a green card or not. Now, waiting for a family member to start the process and finish the process, you could be, delaying your own process years because it's taking longer than it used to. I have my own family. I always tell everyone this, but I have my own family that even when I started working at BDV years ago, they were like, that doesn't exist. That's not real. It's too good to be true. The EB3 process does not exist. And then had to tell them about it, show them, our success cases from people that I had helped. And then some of them, my aunt and a cousin started the process. And now they're getting to the end, now finally getting their interviews. And now all the rest of my family is like, okay, I'm going to start it too, because it's real. Even though I worked at BDV, it took a lot of convincing because it's very true. I mean, there's a lot of scams across not only the US, but all over the world. And especially not being able to, talk to someone face to face in person, or know. I mean, you were lucky because you had a sister who had her green card and knew for a fact that it was real. There's a lot of people that don't have those family or friends that personally, they can see our testimonials, they can see you here right now, but they don't personally know you. So it's hard for them, especially going through the process that is so important. It's a life-changing process, but an expensive one. So you got to be very prepared. And that's why we try to do these, so that people can ask questions to people if they don't personally have anyone, that's gone through this process. So yeah, let's see if I can take a question. I have a question. If the main applicant is in the U.S. going through the adjustment of status process with the spouse, this is not a question for you, but I'll go ahead and answer it because it's a long one. Yes, if the main applicant is in the U.S. and doing an adjustment of status, the spouse can do counselor processing at the same time. But it probably will not end at the same time because they will have to wait for an embassy interview like Ricardo did versus the main applicant doing an adjustment of status here in the U.S. Okay. So yeah, just tell us a little bit more about, well, before we go into that, we like to show short, long, middle, average, long cases. Yours right now, honestly, I would say average, and probably in your head, especially with having your sister have done this first and her process be faster. For you, it was probably a little bit longer. But what challenges did you experience through your process? I know we had the LC denial. What other things, not just in your process, but maybe back home, that you were like hard to plan, when you were going to move to the US? I know you have a family. So how was that challenging for you for those entire 3 years?
Well, it's really challenging being at home, waiting for any news. Sometimes you don't get like anything else that it is going to take a little longer than you thought and all that stuff. But I think you gotta be patient. That's actually what my sister told me. So we just wait at home, try to see when we get the email for the appointment, all the stuff. But I think that's the advice that I should give to
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, and it sounds like very like simple, or that you need to be patient for an immigration
Yeah,
process, but it's really the best advice that you can give anybody.
yeah,
There's really at a certain point we get to a place where no one can really do anything. The applicant can't, the attorneys can't, BDV can't.
yes,
We're just kind of waiting on somebody else, and that's all part of an immigration process. I mean, even the president of the United States couldn't, immediately guarantee somebody a green card. They couldn't immediately get someone. There are laws and policies in place that just we have to abide by. Everyone has to abide by. And, moving to the US is not a simple thing. It's not an easy thing.
yeah,
Um, and it's just being patient and understanding of every step of the process, like you said. I always do this. I know people are probably sick of me saying it, but I had my own green card process that took 13 years. And so when I hear, your 3 years, I'm not diminishing the 3 years that you had, because you had your own experience and you were outside of the US, and that was a long
yeah,
time for you as well. But there are other processes that take double the amount. And so just knowing and understanding the EB3 process and saying, hey, this is for me, and being willing to say, okay, I'm going to start this process and I'm going to be patient, just like you keep saying. So yeah, so what kind of has changed? I mean, obviously you're in the US now. It's a whole different world than
yeah.
Ecuador. What has changed for you since getting into the US? Stability, job opportunities, whatever. What has changed for you?
Well, actually, I think we have now stability with me and my family. I'm doing well at work, and you got, well, I live in a small town. We don't got like a lot of job opportunities beside my work, but actually in my company you can grow by the time goes. For example, I started as a packer, and now I am machine operator one.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so the company provides you everything that you need. They take care about, for example, the safety of the people, and they also have a continuously orientation about all the process, all you can do, all you
Oh,
can do,
good.
and that's good.
Yeah. That's awesome. That makes a great point for a lot of people, knowing that this is an unskilled, the
Yeah,
majority of our applicants are skilled professionals. And just because it's an EB3 unskilled doesn't mean that the applicant is unskilled. It just means that the job doesn't require
yeah,
any education or experience, because they provide that for you. So you don't have to have this experience or training beforehand. There always will be an orientation. There always will be
yeah,
a training, like Ricardo said. And you can move up within the company. They are in a labor shortage with that original position. For Ricardo, it was a packer position where they
yeah,
needed people. But, once he started working there, they saw his worth. They saw that he was a great worker and gave him the opportunity to move up in the company. And that is very well, a good thing that can happen to a lot of people, and it has happened to a lot of our applicants, especially those who had prior degrees. I know of several people that have moved into engineering positions in the sponsor in their original sponsor. So
Yeah.
just to keep that in mind for people for sure. And that was another question from Paola saying that how is the experience with the sponsor? And it's just, yeah, you can tell us about that.
Well, at the beginning, you don't know what to expect. No? You don't know what you're gonna do, how the company works and stuff. But the first 2 days, I got this orientation with all the new people. It was really good. Actually, they tell you about all the companies. Ajinomoto has like almost 10 places in the whole United States,
Mm-hmm.
so people can work. And then the next 2 weeks, I was training every day with different people. So you get experience, you know how to do things, and then after the 2 weeks, you can work by yourself. But everybody always are watching for the new ones, taking good care of them. And actually, what I like in the company is that you don't have to be in the same position the whole day.
Oh,
There's
nice.
Yeah, we always rotate like every hour or half an hour, so you gotta do different things. Sometimes are much harder than the other,
Yeah.
but you don't get to do that like the whole day the same thing.
Yeah. So you keep
Good.
rotating and you keep
Yeah,
entertained throughout the day
yeah,
instead of the
exactly.
same thing all day long.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, and I mean, it depends on, when somebody is ready to start the process and what we have available then. But we have packaging right now. We have
Mhm.
fast food. We have restaurants. We have hospitality. Everything, across the unskilled board we've had and will continue to have.
Yeah,
But we do have a packaging position that's very similar to what Ricardo did in
yeah.
his first role at Ajinomoto, his sponsor. Um, Great. So the next thing I just wanted to talk about was kind of how you felt when you got your green card. I know we've been moving back and forth throughout your process, but I know that going to that interview, you said you were prepared for whatever, and you went in and you had a 10-minute conversation in an
Yeah.
interview. And how did that feel? Like, what were your next steps leaving that interview room? Saying, okay, well, I've been approved. Now what? Like, what was the feeling? How did you feel? And then how did you plan to like move your whole life and family to the US after
Yeah.
that?
Well, actually, when you leave the consulate, is really a relief
I
of
bet.
all that time that you spend waiting and something like that, and you got your papers. So then I I think I spent 2 more months in my country before I came here to the United States, trying to do all my things, selling everything that I can. And then when I got here, well, fortunately, my family's wife, they live here, so they help us when we
Nice. That's
arrive.
perfect.
Yeah. I first I got the social security number,
Hmm.
then my green card, then you got to have the driver's license and also a car so you can move around and
Yep.
something. Then after all that, I came here to Illinois to see where the company was, and I look around like in every city, places to live, the school for my daughter and stuff. And once we were settled, then I started to work.
That's awesome. And did client services from BDV, I know Carolina helps with that, your sister who's already in the US, you had
Yeah,
some of that help going through that. And especially coming to the US, you went somewhere first before you went to where your sponsored location was to really get
yeah,
settled and try to figure out your life in this new
yeah.
country. How did BDV help during that stage before and when you arrived?
Well, they helped me with the job offer letter because it's really not that simple, especially to find a place to live.
Yeah,
Because a new resident, you don't got like a credit score, right?
for sure.
I had a bank account and stuff, but it was new.
Yeah.
So when you try to apply to rent a place, is I think kind of
Yeah.
struggling that part. But BB helped me with the job offer letter, so sometimes I used to show them, well, I don't have like a credit score. I
Hmm.
am a new resident here, but this is where I'm going to.
Yeah.
So actually, that helped me where I am living now, and I'm very good here. I'm happy, and
Great.
everything is going good.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is just, I mean, well, Ricardo, like he said, he had some family to help him when he was coming. Before our applicants that have nobody in the U.S. And are coming fresh and I've never been here, don't know anything about the U.S. Our client services team is there to help before you ever even touch land in the U.S.
Yeah,
Once we know you have that visa approval, at the embassy, they will reach out to you to help plan your move to the U.S., find housing, transportation, schools for children, like Ricardo said, anything to help that process a little bit smoother and you can settle in with a little bit of less stress. Regardless, it's got to be a stressful move, but a little bit less stress is what we're trying to help with. And then when you get to the US, trying to build your credit score, getting a driver's license, social security number, all of those things are things that our client service and our client experience team is helping our applicants with because we understand that, especially for our counselor applicants, you're coming into the US with no experience. There's obviously some people that have come as tourists like you did, but being a tourist is very different than coming and living in the US.
completely different.
Yeah. So that is important to have somebody there to help you even that stage. So it's not like you go to
Yeah,
the embassy, you get your green card approved, and then you never hear from BDB ever again. We're still there helping you, even during the time that you're working for your sponsor, making sure that everything is going well with your sponsor. If anything arises, client services is still there to help you speak to the sponsor or do anything to not put at risk your green card. So
no, that's true because I normally receive like emails from BDB, from client services, asking me what I'm doing at work, if I am completely working, my whole schedule, and all the stuff. And I think it's very good.
that's great. Yeah, we like to follow up because, I mean, for the EB3 unskilled process, they really are looking for two things. Again, your eligibility for a green card and that you have a true intent to help the employer that sponsors your green card. That true
Yeah,
intent you're showing USCIS by actually working with the sponsor, by showing up for them, for working with them for at least 1 year.
it's
And
one year.
so for counselor applicants, even if those of you who come in and when you get here in a couple weeks, you get a green card approved and you get it before you ever start working for the sponsor, that green card really still isn't. I don't like to say that it's not yours because it is yours. You did the work to get it approved,
Yeah,
but you still have one last thing to finish before it's completely yours, basically. You still have to show that intent. So a lot of people, think that they can come in and then never show up to work. And then, USCIS reserves the right to revoke that because it's immigration fraud. You started a process that says, hey, this employer has a labor shortage and I'm willing to sacrifice some time of my life to go help him in exchange for a green card. You get your green card and the sponsor doesn't get, employment, then it's not really what you signed up for. So it's super, super important to work the time that you have with your sponsor, even after you've gotten your green card, because you don't want to waste all this time and money and, get your green card revoked or taken away. So that's
yeah,
why we like to show up and continue to follow up with our applicants just to make sure everything's going good and they are locked in with their green card. Nothing can happen later on. So,
yeah.
do you have anything to add on that? Oh,
No, that's
okay.
completely true what you said, and you gotta be like at least 1 year in there. But for example, I'm doing well, and probably I will stay longer,
Yeah,
so you
that's
can
another
make a
thing.
career.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, we do have, I mean, it's not like you have 365 days and then they're going to cut you out. They want to keep you. They want to keep you as long as possible because you're a good worker and they
Yeah,
they just are companies with labor shortages, so they don't want, people to come in and out. So as long as you want to and you can and you're doing well and the sponsor allows it and they want to keep you, you can totally build a whole career out of one of these sponsors. We've had several people move up to management positions, again, engineering positions at some production plants, and that have stayed there for several years now. So that's a huge plus as well. Just thinking about that when you're picking a sponsor, about a future career with one of those sponsors.
Yeah.
Let me look here. Um, Someone asked, did you complete the process before traveling to the US? How long will it take to start the process before you can travel to the US? So, yeah. So Ricardo did something called counselor processing. So counselor processing is doing the entire process outside of the US.
Yeah, but for example, when I was in the process, I thought I couldn't come here by a tourist, but I did. I didn't have any problems. For example, I asked my attorney about if I'm in this
Yep.
process and I come to the United States to visit my family-in-law or my sister, it will be a problem. And they say no, you are in the process. There's nothing wrong with that. And if they ask you something about it, you just tell them. But they never asked me anything about it.
Yep, that is a really good point to make because I have people that, don't or want to do this process but don't want to stop from coming to the
Mm.
US for 3 to 5 years as the process can take. But that's a really good point. Before
Yeah,
you file your green card application, none of those first steps of the EB3 process are showing an immigrant intent. Um, they don't give you anything. They don't give you a reason to be in the US, like an approved labor certification, an approved I-140. That doesn't give you anything, really, not just
yeah,
yet. It gives you reasons to file a green card application, but it doesn't give you anything, basically. It doesn't give you a reason to be in the US. It doesn't give you like a status in the US. It doesn't give you work authorization. But the good thing is that it doesn't take away from what you do have. So if you have a tourist visa, as long
yeah,
as you're able to prove, your non-immigrant intent, say, hey, I'm going to be here for 3 weeks
yeah,
visiting my sister, or I'm going to go to Disney World for 2 weeks with my kids, as long as you're able to prove that non-immigrant intent, you can still travel up until you file that green card application for counselor processing. The DS-260 is the green card application for counselor processing. That obviously does then show immigrant intent because obviously it's a green card. You're saying, hey, I want to come live in the US. So
mhm,
after that, it could be difficult to actually enter the US. But again, always talk to your attorneys. But yeah. Um, da, 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 That's not a question. I'll answer it, but it's not a question for Ricardo. Labish has made their payment and should be contacted with the attorney. Um, Send me a direct message. I will reach out to your team. They usually connect you within a week or so to your attorney. But you're saying your LC is about to expire. So send me a direct message on Facebook and I will reach out to them directly to get somebody to get you connected a little bit sooner. Um, all right. Well, Ricardo, do you have, I know we're a little bit over time, but do you have anything else that you want to add? Any other advice points that you want to give, or anything else that you want to tell everyone that is watching right now about your process, EB3 or BDB?
Well, I BDB is a good company, but helps you to come to the United States. And what I like is that you come in a legal way and also with a job.
Yeah.
And for example, you have to wait because it's what the process takes. But at the end, it was worth it.
Yeah.
So don't the people don't don't doubt about what BDB does, and you can apply to.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ricardo. It was a pleasure hearing your story, answering some questions from people that want to hear from real life testimonials. We're excited to continue doing these. We're excited for you to have you as a former successful client. And I wish you all the luck with your sponsor if you're going to continue there or whatever you choose to do. I wish you guys so much luck, health, wealth for your family. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to leave them down below. I will continue to answer these questions. You can DM me if you have any personal questions on my Facebook page or the BDV Facebook page. Or if you have an account on your BDV, you can send a chat asking your representative any questions that you may have or schedule a free call. I hope that everyone has a good rest of their week, a good weekend, and thank you guys so much for joining. Thanks again, Ricardo.
Okay, thank you too.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye bye.